Hello?
Yeah, you can hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. It sounds beautiful.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. Had to fix my shithole mic.
Yeah, no problem, dude. What's up?
So anyways, I've never watched your stream before or anything like that, but I joined in at a particular point in which you were debating with that guy about whether you thought violence was ever justified.
Yeah.
I'm unsure. Was he saying that he thinks it is justifiable?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I agree with him probably to some extent, but...
And to which extent do you agree with him too?
If you advocate for a moral philosophy that allows you to enact violence against others, then you probably open yourself to be violently enacted upon. Okay,
well, I mean, that's one story. Like, I would disagree to the point where I think that you shouldn't be physically harming anybody unless you yourself are in physical danger. However, what's happening in all over the United States and even in Canada is people are shutting down any type of speakers that have opposing views to them. Just like anytime I made a comment in your chat, I would get berated with, autism, autistic, and et cetera, et cetera. And
that's very interesting that you say that. Do you think that harassment is a form of censorship? Because nobody banned you from my chat, but that's crazy because you just made a left-leaning argument against censorship. People argue that Milo Yiannopoulos should be deplatformed because he harasses students.
I actually was banned from your chat, and I had to use a different account.
Okay, because I'm looking at your logs, and it seems like you said a whole bunch of shit. I just thought it was really cool that you brought up that argument that you just brought up is a very classic one that left-leaning people bring up to deplatform people like Milo Yiannopoulos who use their free speech to bully others. They consider that a form of censorship. So it's interesting that you concern that a bunch of people in a chat room calling you autistic, you consider that a form of censorship. So that would be a very left-leaning point of view that you have.
No, I didn't say that was censorship at all. Okay. What I'm saying is censorship is absolutely not allowing someone to speak, which was exactly what happened to me when my other account was banned.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm not leftist whatsoever, and I think the whole Antifa movement is absolutely retarded.
Being anti-fascist is retarded, or which part is
retarded? No, the actual group itself, maybe not what it quote-unquote stands for, and just the same way Black Lives Matter. In essence, if you look at it from what some people will say, yes, of course Black lives do matter, but when you look at what the actual group is doing itself and going around and just protesting maybe one case of police brutality and other cases.
Do you think BLM is protesting a single case of police brutality?
I think that they handpick cases, and I think in a lot of cases, like I can't remember all of these off the top of my head, but the last one I saw was maybe it was Eric Garner, and the one I'm not sure. The one who was basically down, and they said he was selling CDs or whatever, and they basically said he was unarmed, got shot, whatever, and the truth was he had prior charges. He actually had a weapon on him, and they basically paint police officers these murderous, insane, violent people that are coming to get any minority. And they're
okay, let's back up. Let's back up really, really far, okay? Do you think that there is a disproportionate amount of police violence against minorities in the United States or not?
No.
Okay.
Not disproportionately.
So when people look at the stats that show that minorities will be sentenced to higher sentences or have a higher chance of being sentenced for the exact same crimes as white people, do you consider those stats to be fake, or do you want to go over some of those? Or,
I mean, I definitely have to look at those.
Okay, sure.
Those references first.
Yeah,
right? It's hard to.
We can look it up. I'm curious. Let's explore. Let's explore all of it together. So I googled minority versus white person sentencing, and I got 3 articles right off the bat. I'm going to send each of you the 3 of them, and we can read them and go through them together if you'd like. Do you want to do that, or do you want to move on to a different topic?
I'll pull them up and I'll read one of them.
Sure, we can go over the first one. It's a New York Times article. Does that trigger you? Is that okay, or maybe we can deal with?
Can we use a different one?
Okay.
Wouldn't want any fake news.
Yeah, I know. So what if we try to read the words and we actually grapple with the subject matter rather than the title or the URL? Do you think we can try that?
I mean, you can go ahead.
Or we can go to the next one. We can do an ACLU. Is that okay, or do you consider them a liberal organization?
The which story? The ACLU?
The American Civil Liberties Union. They're the people that protect free speech.
No, go ahead and read.
Okay. I've never seen this before. Maybe it'll end up agreeing with you by the end. Who knows? Let's see. Racial disparities in sentencing. The American Civil Liberties Union welcomes this opportunity to submit written testimony to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights for its hearing on racism in the criminal justice system of the United States. Our submission focuses on the significant racial disparities in sentencing decisions in the United States, which result from disparate treatment of blacks at every stage of the criminal justice system and are consistent with a larger pattern of racial disparities that plague the U.S. criminal justice system. The human rights violations associated with such racial disparities are particularly egregious in the United States, and we hope that this commission will take action to address them. So without moving on from that, if you disagree with this, can you tell me on what basis you disagree with the ACLU?
I would find it actually hard to disagree because I haven't done enough research in it with myself.
Cool. So that's fine. I'm really glad that you admit that. Can you tell me why you have such a strong opinion on the existence of Black Lives Matters if you're completely unread in this topic?
Okay, well, I'd like to jump to another topic where they talk about how disproportionate black killings.
Okay, I don't want to move on to a topic where you're going to throw numbers at me about black-on-black crime, because one, I already know the argument you're going to make and it's bad, and two, I'd rather focus on this, because this is the thing that drives me to do these conversations, is I run into people like you who have no idea what you're talking about, but still have incredibly strong opinions and want to share them online. You felt confident enough to jump into a call with me to talk to me about how horrible BLM is, and you don't even know about racial disparities in sentencing in the United States.
What has BLM accomplished so far in this country?
They've brought attention to disparate sentencing.
Burning down Ferguson and killing cops.
Do you think that's all they've done? Maybe that's the only thing that you've paid attention to. Let's not pivot, okay? So I want to know, why did you feel comfortable enough?
Do you have any strong evidence to prove that they've actually made any positive effect?
The fact that we're having this conversation now is evidence that they've had a positive effect. They want the conversation to take place in United States politics. Look at the whole kneeling during the national anthem shit. A lot of this is driven by BLM. That's the goal of any political group.
I mean, you can make that argument for anything, that you're raising awareness. So if I walk around with my dick out for prostate cancer and you say, hey, that's kind of fucked up, and I'm like, well, my dick's out for prostate cancer, and then everyone's like, oh, well, you raised awareness.
I don't think that's comparable, but I'm not saying that you can commit like morally offensive actions to raise awareness for something, which is what you're trying to make the comparison of.
Oh, so sorry, what was that? Can you repeat that?
So I understand what you're doing. You're trying to say that all of BLM is literally like a couple of riots that have resulted in people getting killed or hurt or something, I guess is what you're trying to say all of BLM is. If you want, we can go over another.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Okay. What I'm trying to say is that BLM has been focused predominantly on police brutality.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, that's a big thing that they've been focusing on. Yeah.
And what my point is that police brutality is completely overplayed. And
sure, and I agree that that's your point. But now I want you to ask me, on what basis do you base that point? Because earlier you told me that you weren't right enough
on the FBI crime statistics.
On the FBI crime statistics, what does that mean?
The amount of violent and nonviolent crimes committed by a certain race, and the amount of
that has nothing to do with what we're. How is that related to what we're talking about, though?
Because we're talking about police brutality.
So because African Americans might commit more crime, that means that it justifies police brutality or racial disparities in sentencing or other levels in the criminal justice system? Your arguments are tototally disconnected. Do you not see that? Let me give you an example. Let's say that I've got two groups of 100 people.
What I'm talking about is statistically. We can both agree that cops aren't.
Don't use the word statistically, because I don't think you understand it.
We can both agree.
Okay.
That police brutality exists. So the more you are more likely to run into police brutality, the more run-ins you have with police. Agreed?
No. That's not how these arguments work.
So you think it's strictly based on racial.
Based on the overwhelming amount of data, yes. If you want, we can pour through some of it. I mean, I'm very confident that I'm correct here. Just think for one moment. Do you think that you have solved this massive case? Well, maybe the reason why so many blacks experience police is because they commit more crime. Oh, I've got it solved. Do you think that you're the only person that's ever thought of that you just solved the entire dilemma of police brutality in the United States?
And you're talking about dumbing things down.
Your argument is absurd. What you're saying is ridiculous. It's incredibly stupid. You're really working on a master's in international business? You weren't lying when you said that?
I'm not lying at all. I'm just finishing up my bachelor right now and going on to the master.
Oh, you're still an undergrad.
Yes, my last semester before I graduate.
Okay, sure. Okay, so how can you not understand that these two thoughts are disconnected? It is entirely possible that A, black people commit most crime, at least per capita. I agree with that. But it's also possible that B, black people also experience a lot of unfairness in the criminal justice system. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
I'm not denying that there's police brutality. But what I'm saying is that
Stop. You keep reframing this to win the argument. We're not talking about police brutality. We're talking about unfair and unequal treatment of minorities compared to white people. Not just police brutality, but an unfair treatment based on color of your skin.
You can't prove that it's on the fucking color of their skin. You can't look at anything and be like, oh, I know what that cop was thinking that day. He was thinking, that man is black, so I'm going to beat the shit out of him because of whatever reason.
What is your undergrad in?
International business.
Do you take any classes on advertising or marketing or any psych classes marketing. Or anything? So if you do a marketing ad or whatever, and you're trying to measure the efficacy of your ad, you're trying to find out the impact that you had on consumer behavior based on some marketing campaign, do you ever point to stats or data like of consumer behavior and look, they go like, hey, teacher, look. And then your teacher looks at you and he says, you can't say that your marketing campaign was effective. You don't know what that individual consumer was thinking. Has a professor ever said anything like that to you in your entire educational background?
So trying to market a product to someone is the exact same as someone being shot or killed from a police officer.
But we can look at data, okay, and we can analyze data to try to figure out.
But you want to fucking throw the data out the window that they're committing way more violent crimes.
I'm not throwing any data out the window, dude. All of my arguments are data driven. I am very firmly rooted in reality right now. And the data tells us that
so if you go into an area which has a murder rate higher than anywhere in the city, and you encounter someone that's being non-compliant, what do you think is going to happen?
That's not what we're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about right now.
If you're in a fucking high murder rate area,
yeah, I don't know what does this have to do with disproportionate treatment of minorities and white people?
That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. I'm looking at an article that says racial disparities in sentencing. What are you talking about?
We both agreed that we weren't going over this right now because it's something that.
Okay, so wait, what exactly? Can you reframe the topic for me so I understand what we're going over?
The topic that we were going over is police brutality as bad as it's portrayed by the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay. Well, I don't even know what that means. Now we're arguing about something totally different. This is boring to me. Is police brutality as bad as some people undefined says it is? I don't know what this argument is.
They're basically saying that no matter what, if you are black, you're going to be in the United States, you're going to be profiled and you're going to be harassed by police.
Okay. I mean, if that's the straw man you want to attack, I would agree that that's really dumb. I don't think that's the central point of the movement. I think that typically the argument goes that black people generally have more difficult times with the cops and the criminal justice system than white people. This is backed up by data.
Yes, and that could be true. But what I'm saying is a lot deeper than just fucking people being racist. Like I said, if you're going to somewhere where you're in a more statistically more dangerous area.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about more black people get killed by white people. We're talking about the fact that if you take a black person and a white person with the same amount of priors, with the same crime committed, and you put them in front of the same judge.
Yes, but why? Listen.
What?
No, I'm not talking about the judges. I'm not talking anything about sentencing. I already told you I haven't researched any of the sentencing statistics. I don't know what if it's that like that. You could be right on that part of the argument. I don't know.
Okay, well, that's what Black Lives Matter is generally complaining about.
No, it's not just about sentencing. It's not at all just about sentencing.
Okay, what else are we talking about? I mean, it seems like we had some pretty high-profile cases involving black people and police officers. I mean, some of them were probably, who was the big dude that robbed the store? Some of them were probably, the police officer should have shot the dude. Some of them looked really bad. The guy that got thrown around in the back of that van and paralyzed on his way to the jail, it's probably pretty fucked up. The black dude that had I don't know, there's a ton we could go over, but what about this?
Sorry, can you Repeat
there's a ton of cases like where people point to the mistreatment of black people by cops. It seems to be a problem that black people experience more than white people, by a pretty sad amount. Like black people being horrendously mistreated at the hands of police officers. That seems to be part of what BLM was fighting for. Remember the guy that got shot by the cop who was at his window, who said he had a gun, and then the cop just shot and killed him because he said he smelled weed in front of his girlfriend and kid or whatever. That seems to be things that BLM is like fighting against. I don't know. What part of that do you think is wrong?
No, that the part of it I have is wrong is that they're taking one or two examples and then they're going to run with that. And they're
Do you think it's just one or two examples? It's probably like dozens in the past couple years.
If you go down, I guarantee
there's a lot more cops killing black people in the United States than there are Muslims killing people, but we sure as fuck still talk about Muslims.
If you go down to a Black Lives Matter movement and you ask them where they're from and what the last 5 homicide cases were from a white officer killing a black male, they won't be able to name 5 of them. What I'm saying is that
what does that have to do with anything?
What I'm saying is you see one news headline, oh, white male kills unarmed black police officer. Yeah, that's fucked up, and there's definitely times where that is completely unjustified and that they've just completed it like completely.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hey, your mic cut out for a second. Sorry.
Sorry. Which part did it cut out at?
You were talking about why they couldn't identify the last 5 homicide cases or something.
Oh, okay. So let me just regather my thoughts. What I'm saying is that if a What?
Hello? Are you okay? Hello? I can hear your microphone.
Hello?
Hello?
So I took my headphones out now. Can you hear me? I'm doing just on the phone.
I can hear you, buddy.
Anyways, my whole point is if you ask these people what is going on in their communities, they're unaware of what's happening. They're going off a few news headlines, and they're basically getting this rhetoric that police are all bad and that police are out to hurt minorities, which is totally not the case.
This is boring. This isn't the state. Like, if somebody says that all police are bad, it's an easy thing to attack. If that's what you want to do, I mean, we can sit here and pretend that that's like the main point. That
but are we going to pretend like this isn't what's going on in these protests?
No. I think the issue is that they're trying to bring attention to disproportionate treatment of black people.
Fry them like bacon. Pigs in a blanket. Fry them like bacon.
And Jews will not replace us. You will not replace us. Wow, tiki torches. That's the entire right. We can play these games if you want.
That's exactly. But what you guys will say is that 100 people with tiki torches is the fucking whole Republican Party, but when a whole thousands of people go marching down the streets yelling these rhetoric, horrible chants that, oh, those are the outliers, this isn't what it's about. And what I'm trying to say is there's a mass hypocrisy there. Yeah,
this is the difference. The difference is that you can't name a single politician or political figure on the left that says that all cops are racist, but I can point to the president of the United States saying there were good people on both sides of a neo-Nazi rally. That's the difference between your position and mine.
Which politicians are saying that the opposite of that? Like, hello?
Which politicians are saying the opposite of what?
Of what you just said.
The opposite of what? I don't understand what the question is. Can you rephrase it?
Saying that black people are, like, deserve to be what you know what I mean? Like,
that black people are treated unfairly by the cops? I mean, I'm sure I could find a number of Democratic senators that have stated this. I know that Bernie talked about it during he was running for office. I'm pretty sure Hillary did as well.
No, what I'm saying is that you're using absolutes. Like, of course, that there's no one's going to go out and say that, oh, all cops are bad because it's political suicide. But what I'm saying...
You're saying everybody is saying that, though.
Yes, in these groups, not the politicians. Obviously not the fucking high-level politicians.
I don't think the groups in general believe that all police officers are bad. You think they do, but I mean...
You can
what, look on Twitter?
My issue with the Black Lives Matter movement is it's not well organized, and that there's so many different people that are spewing hateful things, and that it's not doing. I don't think it's having a positive effect.
I mean, it started a national conversation on the way that black people are treated by the cops.
Same idea. Of course, it's going to start conversation, but all because you're starting conversation doesn't mean it's fucking good conversation.
I mean, it's a problem, so I think it's a good conversation to have. The whole NFL shit happened probably because of BLM. Like,
did you see the video of the people protesting fucking H&M in South Africa, tearing down the
what does South
H&M
Africa have to do with the United States?
What I'm saying is people the same type of people who support the Black Lives Matter movement will support those
fly
type
to
of
South
things.
Africa and march against H&M there?
No,
we're on huge tangents, my dude. This is massive conjecture. Like, I can't entertain this. Like, I can't even begin to fathom what type of people in BLM would support some movement going on in South Africa against H&M.
Okay, I can easily just point to the Ferguson riots where they fucking destroyed that city.
Yeah, that was a bad riot. There have been thousands of BLM marches since then. Do you think that one riot nullifies the entire movement? People like you are the reason why these movements have to be decentralized, because if you centralize them and one bad thing happens, people like you will paint them with a broad brush and claim the entire or people like you kill the leaders. I don't know if you're the type of person to assassinate somebody, but I mean, the idea that because if you want, I can find you a list of BLM marches, list United States, and I could show you thousands and thousands of marches.
I can find you lists of BLM marches that have gone violent.
Yeah, but that's going to be a small number compared to the thousands of BLM protests.
It's we're both agreeing that it's still an issue. It's the same thing with when people talk about fucking radical Islam isn't an issue because it's such a small percentage. Of course it's a small percentage. Not all Muslims are bad, but the fucking amount of people that still have those views is alarming.
Okay.
Because a small percentage
but you're trying to paint all of BLM as having a problem. If you were to try to paint all of Islam as having a problem, I would argue the exact same way I'm arguing now. What?
That's not the argument. It's not the argument. The whole thing is bad. It's that people aren't standing up and saying, hey, fucking, let's not do this.
I don't know. We're in weird conjecture land where we're talking about generals there are some people that are chanting bad things at BLM rallies, and there aren't people. I have a feeling that you don't even know if people in BLM rallies have stood up against police violence, violence against police or not. I've watched a few of the demonstrations. Normally, the people that are recording are telling everybody to chill out and be calm because they know that if there's violence there, it's going to look really bad. That's what I've seen personally based on streams that I've watched of some of the events. It's possible that there are some violent people at some of these events, but I'm not going to paint the entire movement that way because there hasn't been enough of an outcry against this, or I don't know, that just seems like a really weird, we're splitting hairs so hard here, but we started out this conversation with BLM is really bad, but now we've moved from the position of BLM is baseless and really bad to now you're trying to argue that, well, maybe some aspects of BLM need to be a little bit more vocal in calling out other aspects of BLM for being violent. And I would agree with that. Sure, I don't think any type of violence here is good. I don't think that rioting is good, but we're very far removed from the original claim of BLM as a baseless and negative organization.
We all agree, Destiny got destroyed in this debate. Forehead.
Okay, well, where I would disagree with you there is that the whole fact is, I'm not trying to say that the Black Lives Matter movement, or no, sorry, the Black Lives Matter movement, the issue I'm having with it is that, do you think that is the best way to have a conversation?
What other ways would you like black people to protest? Can you tell me?
Protest which?
The treatment of black people in the criminal justice system in the United States. Tell me what an acceptable way to protest is.
Probably getting a group of representatives together and having community like events where you have people go and that are educated in what they're going to be talking about, and organizing a university session.
Nobody pays attention to this shit, and they probably already do this to some extent. I'm sure they bring like educated people that speak at some of these movements.
Pardon?
I'm sure that they get educated people to speak at some of these marches. I mean, there are people that give speeches at some of these marches that probably talk about specific topics. I mean, like, they're already doing this.
So you don't think that the amount of how BLM has really became just anything because anyone can go fucking be like, hey, we're going to do a BLM march. It's not well organized. That you don't think that's created more controversy and stirred the pot more than it's like. Yeah,
it's
people
possible
are
that it has, but like we're so far removed from the original topic now. Like, if you want to argue with should you have a centralized movement versus a decentralized movement, like I guess we can have. There's probably good arguments on both sides, but we're way far removed from the argument of BLM as an overall horrible, baseless organization. We're so far removed from your original assertion.
My assertion is that it's poorly run. It hasn't.
Well, it's not ran at all. It's decentralized. And then you said it hasn't helped?
Because the only thing you can tell me that it's helped with is started the conversation.
Well, what else are they going to do? I mean, it's not like they can go and like bully a senator to, I don't know. I mean, maybe that you could argue that maybe like
they could probably start with programs in their own communities that are going to bring down the fucking gun violence and crime rates.
I don't know if people individually can do that. We can always vote for... Those are really complicated issues. We can always vote for politicians, but those are good too. None of these things are mutually exclusive. I'm sure a lot of these people advocate for those things as well. You can do both.
But you don't see both. You see people...
They don't see... Exactly. And that's why people march, because you don't see both. You couldn't tell me right now what communities in Chicago or DC have done to try to curb the gun violence. You couldn't tell me right...
Could you tell me which communities?
What? No, because I don't keep up on that shit. For the same reason you don't, because that shit doesn't make the headlines. Marches, they do. That's why we're talking about Black Lives Matter right now, and not Aunt Frida's movement in Chicago to get senators to increase fucking gun bans or whatever, right? Because the marches garner national attention. It gets more of a spotlight on these issues.
If you have nothing of substance to show for... once you're making the headlines, then does it even matter?
I don't know. How can you say what has had impact or not? What about the whole movement now? We've got to finally get body cams on police officers and shit. That's probably in a large part attributed to all of the BLM stuff.
I feel like the body cam movement has been supported even by police officers themselves.
Are you sure? Because some police organization just recently tried to sue to get it stopped.
It's definitely safer for both the individuals and the police officers themselves to have the body cams. Because then it doesn't become he said, she said, then you have some actual evidence.
Then why hasn't it happened yet? The New York Police Department Union just recently sued to stop the release of all body cam footage because it violates officers' civil rights. This story was a few days old, January 15th.
Okay, the New York. Let's see. One second. I'm gonna Google how many, I can find the information, how many states are using body cams.
It looks like it looks like 49 states exempt police from public records requests. Quite a few states don't even specify how long the video has to be stored. But I mean, so how is this fair now? When I pointed an issue that people have been talking about body cams for a while, and it's just now starting to get, serious attention, and BLM has been a big political thing in the past few years, and now you're going to say, well, BLM had nothing to do with that? I don't know if that's fair.
I mean, if it could be, if you can find petitions or anything
prove?
that they've...
What?
Like, is there anything that's like a bill that's been drafted from members of
members of BLM aren't typically politicians?
No, what I'm saying is that BLM have gone to any members in power that could do that. Like, have been like, hey, we're going to get a couple of our representatives together with said politician that can draft said bill to try to push it through.
I would have to go and look, but I know that you don't know the answer. But like, you're setting a really high bar for me now to pass. And it honestly wouldn't even surprise me if this did happen. White House response to petition to label Black Lives Matter a terror group. I don't know. I would imagine this has happened. But like, if I find you this evidence, are you going to flip your whole view on this? Because we can start searching now if you want.
I mean, I could agree. I could agree that that's one more positive thing that Black Lives Matter has done. But I've never heard of anything about that. I don't think that's happened.
Elijah Cummings declares Black Lives Matter in a convention speech. This is a representative, and this was at the Democratic National Convention. So, I mean, like, it seems like BLM has brought attention to issues that are now getting national coverage, and it seems like we're moving in a different direction with how we treat police as a result of that. Like, prominent Black Lives Matter activists attend Obama meeting. Activist DeRay McKesson. This happened in 2016, in July. Yeah, people during the Democratic debates were asking questions of the candidates about Black Lives Matter. I don't see how you could possibly see that they haven't had any impact on the national discourse or moving us towards holding police officers more accountable. Like,
you could.
April 2nd, 2017, Black Lives Matter activists turn attention to state houses. A new initiative launched by BLM activists seeks to refocus the movement's efforts on state capitals, building on momentum at the national level to push back against President Donald Trump's political agenda on issues such as policing and immigration. So I think we can agree that BLM has had some political impact. If we've heard about it during large-scale national debates, if we've seen state representatives mentioning them in speeches, if we've seen them make an effort to impact laws, and if we've seen new laws being passed that are called for by BLM, like body cam-related stuff.
Of course, it's been talked about now after all the
and
shit
legislation,
that's come with
like
it.
body cam-related stuff is being pushed now. Policy is being pushed now.
Like, to say that in 2017 that the only reason that body cams are becoming a thing is because of BLM.
Why are you being so dishonest? I didn't say that's the only reason, but you'd have to be insane to say that they've had no impact on it. Like, you're setting the bar for this so high. Like, you want me to show you, like, BLM coming together, genetically engineering a baby, growing him in a test tube, showing him running for the Senate, and then, like, heading a fucking bill that ends up being passed by the Senate and House and signed by the president. They're like, this is what you need to show that BLM is actually being politically effective.
I mean, you're basically saying that all because that there's been, of course, there's fucking been talks about it, and of course it's been mentioned, but to say that all because people have been speaking about it,
it might have had some impact on some of the laws that are being drafted now. You think that's unfair to say?
It might not have. Like,
I mean, like, society is hella complicated, dog. Like, nothing is going to be... I'm not going to be able to show you anything in society that's like a point A, cause and effect. Like, nothing works that way. I don't understand what you need to see to admit that BLM has been somewhat politically efficacious. Like...
So... my whole point is that there's definitely better ways to go about things rather than how
this
they've
is
gone
the
about
problem, though. I don't know if you're a Martin Luther King fan or not, but like this is the problem: is that people always say this, like, "Well, there's a better way to do it." What is the better way? Like, everything that you've suggested has been tried for a long time. People have been writing letters to senators. People have been pushing for different types of programs or policies to be implemented. A lot of it hasn't worked. And a lot of people don't give a fuck about stuff like that. Big marches, people kneeling during NFL games, this is what gets national or international attention.
So do you think anytime there's something that social issue that it's always gotten violent?
What?
Anytime that people try to advocate for any type of social issue, do you think it gets violent?
I mean, anytime you get a sufficiently large amount of people in an area, yeah, violence oftentimes happens, sure. When men are involved, yeah.
Oh, because men are inherently violent.
More so than women. When the women had their international march across all 7 continents, there was very little to no reported violence. I mean, I'm just going by the data. I'm sorry if that makes you upset, but it's like 97% of all violent crimes are committed by men.
So why is it okay to say that however many percentage of violent crimes are committed by men, but not okay to base the fact that 52% of murders in the United States are committed by blacks, who make up for 6% of the population?
Where did I ever say that's not okay?
Maybe you didn't say it yourself, but that's my whole issue with leftist rhetoric. Is it's all about political correctness. You can't say this.
It's not about political correctness. You're like, you're trying to plug things in that don't plug in, dude. Okay, hold on. Do you understand that I can tell you that we can have the statement that black people commit more homicides than white people per capita? I don't disagree with that. We can say that, but we can also simultaneously say that black people are unfairly treated in the criminal justice system. That we can say both of those statements. You seem to think that these statements are at ends with one another. If you do, we can talk more about them. Do you understand that statement or not?
Do you not believe that those two are related?
No,
those two
they're not.
Are related?
They're absolutely
they're
not. No, they're not.
No?
Those are two discrete, different statements. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about a hypothetical, okay? I love hypotheticals. Let's say you have 100 white people, and let's say you have 100 black people, okay? Let's say that 10 white people, okay, commit a crime, and each of those 10 white people get sentenced to 5 years in jail for that crime. Let's say that of the 100 black people, let's say that 20 black people commit a crime, and they each get sentenced to 10 years in jail for it. Now, we can make 2 statements about this group of people, assuming at cerebris paribus or whatever, right, that all else is equal, right? We can make 2 statements. One, twice as many black people as white people commit this crime. That is a factual statement. And 2, black people are sentenced longer for the same crime as white people. That's a separate statement. Both of these statements are true. Both of them are unrelated to one another. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I disagree, because when you get sentenced for the same crime, you're not doing the exact same thing. You're fucking painting it so broadly.
If you want, we can go to
If I steal a fucking candy bar, it's a lot different from fucking stealing the cash from a cash register. It's still robbery.
So you think that all these people that do all of this data analysis are comparing the theft of candy bars to the violent armed theft?
What I'm saying is it's not as easy as fucking like.
Right.
How, do you,
we can't, if you don't want to engage with the data, I can't talk to you. If you really just hate black people, there's nothing I can say to change your mind.
Black people.
Okay, well, like, you're acting like you have like the hidden answer. Like, do you realize how presumptuous you're being in assuming that, like, well, I know the one thing that all these millions of people that have collected data, I know better than all of them. They're just comparing the wrong crime. Like, do you realize how arrogant you sound when you say that? Like, do you really think that nobody else thought of that?
Say that when these statistics are done, that they take in everything into account?
Yes, that's the point of doing statistical analysis, yeah.
That's near impossible.
It's very difficult to do it, but I mean, like, criminal sentencing isn't as complicated as some other socioeconomic things, and the data shows so far, based on everything that I've seen, and based on everything that every person that's ever talked about this has seen, seems to point to the fact that there are probably disparities in the way that we sentence minorities versus white people in the United States. You seem to be alluding to some hidden variable, some hidden confound that nobody else has seen, but you know it, and it's because they're not comparing like crimes or something. Like, if you believe that you have the secret answer that no one else has, why are you going to school for whatever you're doing? You should become a statistician or a pollster, and you could make like billions of dollars since you've got like the answer that nobody else has.
You want to know what's a funny solution to any of that?
What?
Don't commit crimes.
Okay, how does that help us with anything?
You're saying that people are nitpicked on their race, and that determines their sentencing.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is that when people commit a crime, there's fucking a huge process. You have the severity of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have the judge who they're not everyone's tried by the same judge.
Correct.
And then you have the different state laws.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is that you cannot, it's statistically probably impossible to come up with an analysis that's going to show the differences, or you can't lump them all in the same bunch.
So your argument is that sentencing guidelines and individual judges across state borders could be so vastly different that trying to compare these to one another might be impossible? But you're willing to paint every single person in BLM with a broad brush because of one or two riots, because of what a few people did at some riots.
I wasn't painting the people in BLM, actually. I was saying the BLM itself as a movement.
So you can speak with a broad brush about BLM as a movement based on a couple of riots of thousands of BLM marches, but you can't make similar statements and yours is based on conjecture, but after very careful collection and perusing of data, you can't make statements about the criminal justice system. This is just impossible to do.
Well, the argument you're using, I can use the exact same argument back.
How?
Because you're saying I'm taking a small account, but you could be taking a statistic that's like, okay, any type of rape. And so let's say blacks are more likely to get two years more than a white would for rape, right?
I know where you're going with this.
I'm just making that's a hypothetical.
If somebody sends you an email and they say, hey, I've got a pill and it's going to be the best pill ever. It's going to cure obesity. I just need an initial investment of $20,000 in my company, and I will make you a millionaire. What would you think when you get an email like that?
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm just curious. What goes through your mind when you get an email like that? If you think it's good, do you think that's a real email or a fake email?
You don't answer an email like that. What does that have to do with anything?
I'm just curious what your answer to that is. If somebody sends you an email and they say they've got a new pill that cures obesity and they just need a $50,000 investment or something and they'll make you a millionaire, what do you think when you read that email?
You fucking you don't open it, you read it, you close it.
Sure. What are some of the inductive thought processes that you go through to determine that that's a fake email? Tell me some reasons why you think that email would be fake. Okay, I'll suggest one. How about, if this guy's pill was so good, don't you think somebody else would have either discovered it or funded it by now?
Oh my fucking god.
What, you don't think so? That would be...
So your excuse is that everything has been tried, and the only way is that even if you attempt something very poorly, it's better than nothing.
My excuse is that I am talking about racial disparities in the criminal justice system. This is an issue that has been heavily studied by tens of thousands of people across multiple disciplines, both at the government level and in the academic level. You are telling me that you, as a singular undergrad that was dumb enough to hop into a call with me without having any idea what you're talking about, has the secret answer for why all of their data is confounded.
Listen,
and why you have the correct answer. That. That's what you're saying to me, dude.
No, I didn't.
You're saying, well, you can't compare these two. You don't think that...
remember at the start of the conversation when I said, I don't really want to talk about this.
Let's talk about something different then. Let's go to a different topic, because you're totally lost here.
We covered that a little. Yeah, obviously you baited me into a conversation.
I'm not bait. You're a good guy to the topics.
My argument for that was that I believe that those statistics obviously can't show the greater detail.
My guess is that the statistics have probably been pretty carefully controlled for to make sure that there's not a really dumb, obvious confounding variable that a year 2 student, undergrad, could probably spot in the data. This state, that a sophomore, that an underclassman undergrad could probably figure out when the teacher says, hey, what are some possible confounds for our statistical analysis here of crimes? Where a bright, doughy-eyed 19-year-old will go, hey, maybe in some states the judges are really mean, LOL. Hey, hey, maybe in some states the sentencing is a little bit harsher by default. LOL. I would guess that people that dedicate their lives to studying and putting together this type of statistical analysis that is then furthered by the government and several other large organizations that are all independent from one another, I would guess that they probably thought about these incredibly basic objections that you're making to their data. That's my assumption.
So all these people are competent based on their position.
I trust the consensus to be competent. Not every individual, but the consensus, yes. If you don't want to deal with academic or scientific consensus on a topic, I can't touch you. I don't deal with religious people, I don't deal with faith-based people, and I don't deal with emotional arguments because I can't touch you there.
Is gender biologically chosen, or is it on a spectrum?
It depends on how you define gender, and I don't know. That's a really complicated question. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's too hard of a question, actually.
And I'm sure that you've got the psychology background to argue out, my dude. Let's try a different topic.
No. You said let's go on to a different subject, so I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is it biological, or is it
your sexual organs are 100% biological. In terms of like what does gender even mean? A lot of the things that gender means are things that are
why did gender change its meaning?
It hasn't changed its meaning. What gender is meant a lot of different things over periods of time. It means different things to different people. Do you think the fact that women shave their legs, is that like a natural, like evolutionary trait? Do you think that women in the fucking wilderness used to shave their legs? What?
Words are how you feel about them and your interpretation and definitions.
We're talking about a concept, not just a word. We're talking about the concept of gender right now. Do you want to talk about the word, the definition of gender? I thought we were talking about the concept. I could be mistaken. I'm sorry. Do you want to just talk about like the definition or word gender?
No, I want to talk about, what's your concept of gender then?
My current concept? I have no idea. I'm totally lost on it. It sounds like some pretty fluid thing that moves from between two different dichotomies of man and woman.
Why do you think this?
I don't know, because it's generally...
Why do you think it's fluid?
I don't know, because I haven't heard a very strong argument to point to one end being like a very rigid binary of man versus woman. Haven't heard that as much.
So, if you haven't heard a very good argument opposing something, and you hear someone say gender is fluid, you'll take that and believe that until you hear something otherwise.
Yeah, generally the way that I form my thoughts is I take the best argument at any given point, and that's usually the one that I put my stock in.
And why is that the best argument? Why is it the best argument that it's fluid?
Because I haven't heard an argument against it that seems reasonable.
Which argument have you heard that sounds reasonable that it's fluid?
Because when we list out masculine and feminine traits, all of these fall on distributions where we can point to men that have certain feminine traits, or we can point to women that have certain masculine traits. So it seems really hard to nail any individual as being fully...
Why the fuck would a male having feminine traits affect his gender?
Because when we speak of gender, we're talking about something that's generally socially experienced and not really biologically experienced. For instance, when you meet somebody in a public setting, you are assuming their gender based on social things. You have no idea biologically what their sex is.
I would probably assume their gender based on the fact that they have breasts. And
really? You've never met a man with gynecomastia? Or you've never met a woman with small boobs?
Oh, wow. So we're going to use a very small percentage of outliers that defines...
I mean, there are a decent number, especially Asian women, with small breasts. I mean...
So you're telling me that if you were to look at a woman and a woman and a man, the only reason you know it's a woman and the only way you know it's a man is because of social constructs?
I'm mainly that a lot of the really obvious cues... Wait, hold on, because you don't disagree with this. The obvious cues...
Back when cavemen were around, they end up fucking each other because they didn't know the difference between a man and a woman?
Probably not, but when we're talking about fucking, we're not talking about what gender is, everybody. We're talking about sexuality very much there, right? I'm looking for something with a vagina that I can mate with. And you don't want to take this argument up because, yeah, animals all the time fuck each other, like men and men do in animal fucking kingdoms and shit. Like, even in chimpanzees, this has been observed. But yeah, socially, when you look at people, if you look at the back of a woman, how do you know she's a woman? Usually it's because of the clothes they're wearing, the shoes they're wearing, whether or not their legs are shaved or not.
Usually because they usually have less bone.
You can tell bone density. You can just eyeball them right now. Like, oh, I can. Okay, well, when I go to this, maybe my eyesight.
That when a man and a woman go through puberty, that they are biologically different.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so there you go.
But typically, the way that we spot differences sexually in public is usually by the clothes they wear, the shoes they wear, the way their hair is done.
It's a man or a woman.
Okay. I don't live like in any nudist camps or anything. Maybe our experiences might be a little bit different, and I don't have the X-ray bone density like scanner so that I can like look at like a woman in the eye, like, oh, I analyze the bone density and I see the calcium deficiency and her body has entered puberty in such a state that...
So usually, I'm assuming you look like a pretty bougie guy. You must go out lots and meet lots of women. When you go out, are you like, hey, are you a man or a woman? Are you male or female? I couldn't tell because
I don't usually ask
fluid.
because it's not usually relevant to my conversation. I don't really care what gender a person
it's not
is.
Relevant. That's pretty offensive of you to say for a lot of people.
Why? Why do I care what a person's gender is when I'm talking to them?
Oh, because of their pronouns.
I mean, if they can ask me, I usually ask their name and I'll refer to them by their name. Like,
so you would never say use he or she without asking someone's pronouns first?
I would probably assume, but if they asked me to use something different, I would just use something different. Or if I wasn't sure, I would just use they.
What I'm getting at is that political correctness like that is fucking just spiraling out of control. Did you know that in Canada now that kids can be taken away from their parents if that, say your little 6-year-old daughter says, hey, daddy, I'm a boy, and you say, no, you're not, you're definitely a girl, you don't know better, and you don't agree with them and you don't want to get them on hormones or anything, that can be now considered child neglect.
This is really hard because now I'm hitting you up with that big question. Can you demonstrate where this has happened before in Canada?
I can bring up the bill that they've passed.
So the answer to that is no. So move on to your next
point.
Well,
it's a very recent bill that's just passed.
Are you talking about the amendment that they made to C-16 to add transgender protections under their normal like human rights shit? Or are you talking about a different bill that makes it so that if your 6-year-old daughter says that they want to be a man, your child's going to get taken away if you don't put them on puberty blockers? Which bill are you talking about? Talking about the C-16 thing. All right, so what you just said is total fantasy.
Bill C-16 is written very poorly, and
okay, I don't care about this because you can't prove anything you're saying right now. So what's the next thing?
I can't come up with
so then can you show me a story?
It's almost like I can't come up with the exact fucking example on spot, just like you were complaining about. Well, I can't come up with a BLM thing just on spot that it's done, but
except I did. We went through specific examples. We went through specific things.
Do you not want me to find a few specific examples?
Yeah, show me somebody losing their kid or being. Let's do that. Yeah.
I can show you that.
Show me a parent losing their kid because of Bill C-16 or something. Yeah.
For people who have gender dysphoria and that they try to realign with their gender. So say you have a little girl.
Yeah, stop talking about it and show it to me. We can take some time and look for it. Go look for it.
Wait. So if you want to take your little girl to someone who can help them, and that
can
now
you
cannot
please
get that
show me
help.
An article?
Yep. One second. Let me just.
Okay.
Hold up. Okay, look up CAM-H, Youth Gender Identity Clinic Closure.
CAM-H-U?
CAM-H, just like CAM and then H, and then Youth Gender Identity Clinic Closure. So basically, they've closed down a clinic that was for people that had gender dysphoria to go see therapists and to get the proper treatment they needed as the parents saw fit. And now they no longer have that option because it apparently is transphobic and hateful and bigoted to say that it is not, that a little girl is not a little boy.
So the C-16 amendment happened on June 19th of 2017. It sounds like this place was closed, or was earning international ire at least, on January 23rd of 2016. What's your next example?
Okay, hold up 1 second.
Sure.
Do you not see that that's the exact same?
No, I see that the bill was amended a full year after this place was attacked and closed. So clearly these two are not related.
Do you know how long it took for that bill to be passed?
No. Well, was it in debate for a full year?
Bill C-16 wasn't drafted overnight.
Also, this was an amendment to the previously written bill too, but...
Okay, hold up. So in the bill, you can definitely agree. Well, I don't know. Have you read the bill before?
Yeah, we read the full text on stream. It's like very short. It's like a couple paragraphs or whatever.
You read the whole bill?
Yeah, the amended part was literally like a few paragraphs, no?
When was this?
I don't know, a few months ago? Didn't we read?
Okay,
I'm pretty sure we read this on stream.
Okay, well, I've never watched the stream, so. Anyways.
Well, you said you didn't watch my stream before tonight. Were you lying?
No, that's why that's what I just said. I said I haven't.
Okay.
I didn't watch that stream, so that's why I was confused as whether you're saying that you just brought up the bill or whether you're talking about a prior time. Anyways, so it's to protect. It's so poorly written. So if I'm to say I want to be she and you refers me as she and her and whatnot, and I work with you, and you start calling me he, and you would agree that that bill gives grounds for criminal punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Workplace discrimination, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So what decides whether I'm a girl or a guy?
I guess it's whatever you prefer to be called. I don't see a huge deal with that.
Why can't I be a girl right now?
If that's what you prefer to be called, then sure, I can call you a she. Why is this a big deal?
How do you prove this in a court case?
Why would I have to prove this?
That it's workplace discrimination.
I don't know. There'd probably be some documented history of you preferring to be called a certain pronoun or something. I'm sure it would be pretty obvious.
What's the proper? It's pretty obvious.
So you're trying to bring up this weird edge case where somebody's going to spring on to somebody like, aha, I gotcha. That's not the pronoun I prefer. I'm going to take you to court. Can you show me an example of this ever happening?
No, what I'm saying is there's no fucking guideline.
What you're saying is you're parroting the Jordan Peterson argument of, oh no, like they're going to use this bill to put everybody in jail and people want to be called like Thor as the pronoun, and this isn't what any of this bill was about.
There's literally university students in Canada that want to be they, them.
That's great. There's a lot of crazy fucking university students. They've existed for hundreds of years. University students are always fucking crazy.
Yes. So do you think that the professors should have to use these pronouns?
Pronouns besides he or she, I would probably just default to they before using any type of Z or whatever, just because I don't know, that seems kind of weird to me. I would have to think about it more. But I think that just using they should probably be okay or adequate. Okay,
because that's not seen as okay by a lot of the transgender community.
Okay, I'm sure there's a lot that I disagree with the transgender community, but we've moved very far away about what C-16 codified into law.
Yes, but now that is now punishable by law if you're not respecting that.
I would have to see that actually. I don't believe that that's true. I don't think that you can demand to be called an off pronoun and then defend that in court, that somebody could refer to you as they if they wanted to. I don't think you would get punished for that under law. It's possible that could happen. If it could happen, I would disagree with it, but I haven't seen that happen.
Well, clearly you're not familiar with the Canadian justice system. It's fucked.
It sounds like I'm more familiar with you than you are, because it sounds like you had no idea when C-16 was passed or amended, and it sounds like you have no idea if there are any cases that back up what you're talking about. Hey? Well, why did you bring up the closing of that clinic? Because it was mentioned by Jordan Peterson?
Because the fucking bill was being talked about for over a year.
Yeah, it was being talked about for about a year. It sounded like it was introduced in May. That bill was introduced in May. This place was closed in January. And they had already been catching flack before then, because it sounds like the way that they were treating gender dysphoria was at ends with what current clinical practice suggests. It sounds like, in going through this article, that a totally independent review last year of the Department Services is what led to their winding down and closure. This doesn't sound like a massively political thing. It's possible that it was, and if it was, I invite you to show me how it was, but it sounds like you're not really equipped to do that.
Well, there's a documentary on it where the owner or the owner of the clinic speaks a lot about it, but clearly I would not assume that you're going to watch that.
Whoa, I'm curious. Just hit me up with the name of the documentary. I'm curious. What's it called?
Okay, 1 second. It was on CTV, I think, or CBC. 1 sec. All right, one sec. Okay, it's a BBC Two document, Transgender Kids, Who Knows Best is the name of the documentary.
This is a 1.5 hour. So what do you think I would find if I were to watch this?
It goes more in depth about the actual reason of why it was closed and the upcoming Bill C-16 ideology and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I guess I can't watch this right now. This is the press release from the closure of that place. December 15th, 2015. Damn, even earlier then. So this is like 2 years ago. 2 years ago. December 15th, 2015. CAM is announcing plans to change the gender identity services it provides to children and youth following an independent clinical review of its Child, Youth, and Family Gender Identity Clinic released today. The external review of the CYF Gender Identity Clinic is Gender Identity Clinic's practices and operations, first announced in February 5th of 2015, was conducted by 2 independent clinicians. While the reviewers identified some strengths in the clinic, they found that the CYF GIC's approach to providing services to be out of step with current and evolving clinical and operational approaches. The reviewers recommended that CAM engages with the community to determine further directions. I don't know, nothing that I see here sounds too horrible. This review was triggered when CAM met with community partners in late 2014. I really don't think this has anything to do with C-16, my dude. Unless C-16 has been worked on for the past decade.
Like I say, go ahead and watch that, and then...
Are they going to mention that C-16 caused this place to be closed when I watch that documentary?
They'll talk about the exact same ideology.
Okay. Well, then let's move to the ideology then and abandon the C-16 thing at least.
Okay, sure. That's great.
Okay.
So the ideology is that... when that gender is on a spectrum, and to disagree with that is harmful for and abusive to young minds.
The problem you're having with this guy is she never states their position clearly. Jay just asks random questions, like, don't you think this? Or, you can't say that.
Okay, so... Let's back up on that. So now that we've moved off of C-16, can you... So what exactly is your problem right now?
My problem with Bill C-16 is very poorly written.
Wait. Well, we're moving off of Bill C-16.
Okay. So where are we moving to?
Tell me what you want to talk about, because we're done. We're not on Bill C-16, because this had nothing to do with that. So what is it about this trans stuff that upsets you so much?
Like places like in Canada as a start of your freedom of speech being impeded. Well, they don't even really have freedom of speech. They have freedom of expression.
Okay, nobody has freedom of speech to harass employees or coworkers.
Is that harassment, though? Why is that harassment?
When you make fun of somebody or harass them?
No, you don't make fun of them. If you are biologically a female, and I'm going to refer to you as her, and as your name, and you
don't have to use her.
That,
you could just use their name. You're not going to get in trouble for that.
When you're using in basic speech, you're not gonna use their name rather than a she or her.
You could use their name and then the pronoun they.
You have to completely reconstruct. You
could just use the pronoun and they. It's super easy. Why are you so triggered by this? If I had to refer to somebody as they, it wouldn't trigger me.
So you're gonna use they and their, like.
We already do this in speech commonly. Yeah, we use they to refer to singular people.
Why does one small minority of a population have the right to change the majority's population on their linguistics and how they're allowed to use it?
Language change.
Not only that, but something that isn't even scientifically proven to be real. But
I mean, transgenderism is scientifically recognized. What do you mean proven to be real?
It was definitely recognized as gender dysphoria and a mental illness.
No, so gender dysphoria and being transgender are two separate things. And I don't have to change. I can just refer to somebody as they. I already do 90% of the time anyway. Hey, what's Sam doing? They're out, I think, with their friends tonight. Like, I already say that 90% of the time anyway.
So you're gonna tell me you never say his and hers and she's and him?
I mean, sometimes I do, but if that bothers somebody, I don't care. I don't know why I would care if I don't want to say.
But are you gonna be able to remember everybody?
I'm pretty sure if you make a good faith effort to do it, it's probably pretty easy to remember, yeah? Or I just say they if I don't remember. Why does it matter so much? Why does it trigger you so hard?
Because so on a driver's license, is it going to say male or female or other? And same with what do you believe about if a trans man or trans, I don't even fucking LGBT square root. If say I don't even know how they use this. So say a man who transitions into a woman, what if they want to go compete in sports? Are they allowed to as a woman?
The sport thing is a lot harder. I would probably disagree with that because sports are, I think, sexually defined rather than defined by gender.
What do you mean sexually defined?
As in, like, there are very real sexual differences between men and women.
Yes, exactly. I think you just said it there yourself. There's very real differences.
Yeah, but we're talking about sex now. We're not talking about gender. Do you want to talk about sex?
Sorry, what's the difference?
Gender seems to be like a sort of social construct that you identify with. Sex seems to be the biological...
Why is it a social construct?
Because how we identify as each of our genders is a very socially constructed phenomenon. There's no social reason why women shave their legs or have long hair as opposed to men. There's no reason why women wear dresses and men wear suits. There's no reason why women have earrings and men don't, or although now they do and that's changing. I mean, a lot of that is social. Gender is very much socially constructed, whereas biological sex has very real impacts on your biological body.
I would like to say that that the majority of people you would probably ask whether they think their gender is socially constructed or not would disagree with you.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of people are too stupid to recognize a lot of things that are socially constructed. But what's the point of that? The fact that you wear clothes and are ashamed of your genitals, that's a social construct. Do you agree with that or not?
Pardon, what was that?
Do you think the fact that you're ashamed to show your genitals to people is a social construct, or do you think that's natural?
What do you mean ashamed to show your genitals?
If you were to go outside and show your genitals to everybody, would you be embarrassed by that?
Probably not.
Okay, well, most people probably would, but they probably wouldn't admit that a lot of that is socially...
Okay, you're being ridiculous right now.
How am I being ridiculous?
What does that have to do with... To go
that a lot of our
who goes outside and fucking just flashes people? That's illegal.
Every single animal across the entire animal kingdom.
Oh, sorry, we're animals now?
Yeah? What do you think we are? Something special? Something different?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're definitely... So we're no different than a fucking deer or a moose.
We're very different, but we're all still animals. We all still have like the same underlying mechanisms and shit. We're just a little bit farther evolved along than most of them.
So murder is okay if you're going to eat somebody else because we're all fucking animals.
I never said murder was okay. You don't want to get off into this tangent. Yes, but it's
the whole idea that we're in a fucking civilized society where you don't do that.
I agree. We are in a civilized society where we do things that we're not necessarily biologically programmed to do, like identify gender. I agree with you. Cool. What do you want to talk about next?
That's not. You can't just wrap it up by saying
that was your point. You just made my argument for me. You wrapped it up nice and neatly. You said, well, we live in a society where we do things that are different than the animals. I agree. One of those things we do differently is having these kind of weird ways that we define gender. I totally agree with you.
Where are you getting this difference between the gender?
Okay, why do women wear dresses and men wear suits?
Wait, sorry.
Why do women wear dresses and men wear suits?
I'm gonna say a word, and you say sex or gender. Woman.
It could be either. It depends.
Female.
Probably sex.
Her.
Gender. I mean, it depends on what you're referring to. Like, if we're talking about, like...
Do you not see how you're hesitant to answer all these questions?
Well, yeah, because I don't know what we're talking... If you're talking about, like, cadavers or something, you're talking about, like a corpse or whatever of, like, a biological male or female. It could be his or her. Are you trying to, like, get me on program? I don't think that this is, like, winning your argument. I don't think this is helping you very much. Can you answer me, why do women wear dresses and men wear suits? Can you answer me that?
Why women? Because why do women wear dresses and why do men wear what? Sorry,
suits.
I mean, women also wear suits, but
men don't wear dresses, and women oftentimes wear dresses. So generally, women wear dresses to. You don't usually see, like, at a wedding, all of the bridesmaids show up in nice suits. These are very heavily tied into our gender identity. So I'm curious if you can give me an answer that can escape biological necessity.
Well, probably has to do with you know, like it's just that's irrelevant because men used to wear heels before women did.
That's exactly right. That's not irrelevant. That's totally my point. These are ways in which we identify genders of people. If I
that's
were
not to do with your fucking gender. That's
it is. If I were to play that game with you, can you tell me male or female? Okay. Now here we go. Dress. You would probably say female. High heels.
Clothing.
You'd probably say
clothing,
female.
That has nothing to do with your fucking genetics.
Oh, okay. Well, then instead of her or his, I would say person. Is that male or female? I think we should. I don't think you've thought about this much. I think we should move on to the next topic. What is the next thing you want to talk about?
No, I feel like you're skipping past that one.
I'm not skipping past anything. You just don't want to be honest with yourself because you're so hell-bent on like reaffirming. Like you've already made up your mind on all these topics that you've never even thought about before, let alone like done research and made up your mind about. Like if you won't admit to me that gender is very heavily socially constructed, this is like an uncontestable point, my dude. The differences between men and women in society, like we can look at some very real observable sexual differences. For instance, like you said earlier, men tend to have more muscle and tend to have greater bone density. Men tend to carry more muscle in their upper body as opposed to women. Females tend to have different fat distribution around their body than males. We can look at some of these differences in sex, but in contemporary society, generally the way that we identify as genders, that is a heavily contextualized thing. We don't talk about like my cute little girl. She's so cute because she has less muscle mass and a little bit less bone density and childbearing hips. I love her so much. Usually we say like, oh, she's so adorable. She goes to dances. She wears pretty dresses. She's got beautiful shoes.
She.
Yes, she, and then it's tied in with some social behavior, not with like a hardcore like biological assignment. Dress, she. High heels, she. Shaved legs, she. Long hair, she. These are things that could be applied to man or woman, but we associate them with women because gender is largely socially constructed.
Sure, you can say the roles are, but that still leaves us with males and females. So you're saying something is more masculine or something is more feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, there we go. There's two genders.
Oh, yeah, but I'm on stage one because I have to come all the way back here because you're way far behind in the argument. Now, if you agree with me there that we can, if we agree that we can ascribe masculine and feminine and that those don't necessarily apply to sexually male and female, well, if you agree with that, then it's really easy for me to say, hey, some men exhibit feminine traits, some females exhibit masculine traits. It kind of seems like maybe gender socially exists on some form of a continuum. It's not a hard leap to get from A to B if I've already got you at A.
Okay, let's entertain that.
Okay.
And then how do you branch off from there be more than two genders?
I don't know if there would be more than two genders. We'd probably use the dichotomy since that seems to work to some extent, like male and female. I don't know if there's a third gender. Apparently in ancient India, I think there was like a third gender.
Well, there's the very rare, I can't remember the name.
Intersex?
The intersex, there you go.
Yeah, that's like a
huge
more
outlier. Of a genetic mutation, yeah. But so we can agree that there's male and female, and those are the two genders.
I mean, we can agree that those are both poles. That those are two things on a binary. Sure, I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Okay. So what defines your gender then?
I don't know. It seems to be like an arbitrary election that we make socially.
I mean that's. So you're telling me you can't look at someone and that be like that is their gender?
It's pretty hard. I mean, I could show you some pictures right now of people that cross-dress very convincingly and really make you think. I mean, if you want, we can play that game.
Yes, but that's them dressing up and cross. I'm talking about the natural state of this person.
Okay, but this is what I'm trying to get at, my dude. When you go out publicly, right? You don't oftentimes have the ability to nail down a person's biological sex if like based on like knowing for sure what they look like. Like if I were to go and show you, 100 people and hold a gun to your head and say, I need you to 100% tell me the sex of every person, you wouldn't take that bet, because I could find you men that could very convincingly dress as women, and I could find you women that could very convincingly dress as men. And the fact that just the clothing that you wear can have a huge determining factor on how I perceive you as whether you're a man or a woman kind of shows that gender is largely kind of a socially constructed thing.
I think you should be free to do whatever you want. You can dress how you want. You can say you're this or that. But what I'm talking about is when it comes onto any type of legislation level where you're passing bills on what you can say and what you can't say, it's when it becomes an issue.
I don't think there's an issue with protecting people that want to be called a certain name in the workplace. If I go up to you and I say, hey, I really want to be called Jenny, okay? And if you could refer to me as a she, I'd appreciate it. If you're not comfortable with that, you just call me Jenny and use they. I don't think that's a big deal. I don't see why that's such a trigger, or why that would bother you so much.
It's the same thing. It's a slippery slope once you start legislating things like that. And like I said, the bill is so poorly written.
Okay, let's play the slippery slope game. So slippery slope is a fallacy, but I won't explain why. It doesn't have to be. So let's see if you can prove the slippery slope. Okay, so a fallacious use of slippery slope is when you take two events that have no connection to one another, and you say that if you do A, then B will occur. So I'm going to ask you to give me a B and then connect it. So you're arguing that there's a slippery slope. If we let people, be
I gave you a perfect example already.
Yeah, what was it?
You're telling your child that they are not this, that they're not what they're
and I told you that I don't believe that will happen.
1 second.
And then you couldn't provide a story showing that happened, and we moved on to this the cam change thing.
Well, can you give me a second, please?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. If you give me an article from The Sun or the Daily Mail or Breitbart or Daily Caller, I'm going to be Googling the name to make sure it actually happens, so be careful.
No, I don't read Breitbart, don't worry. Is there any way I can link these to you?
Yeah, it's in Discord chat. Or can you...
Yeah, the problem is I'm on my phone. Let's see if I can still... I hope this doesn't end the call. I'll try to send it through my...
I just messaged you and I said test.
Let's see, yeah.
All right. Give me a minute and I will read this. This new law in Canada could remove kids from parents who reject transgender ideology. So we're already past case studies, and now we're saying this is a possibility, but okay. Canada's most populous province, Ontario, just passed a law that could allow... Oh, so this isn't even about C16.
No, you can read the other two. They're more... It's the...
Oh, well, hold on. Now I'm not sure, because this is...
Hey, whether it's C16 or not, it's the same. It doesn't change anything.
Discount Tire.
Okay, sure. I just wanted to establish we were talking about C16. But okay, yeah, you're right. Canada's most populous province, Ontario, just passed a law that could allow the government to remove kids from their home if their parents oppose the new transgender ideology. So I'm curious what this law is, and when I click, it takes me to christianpost.com. So I need to find this law. Give me a second. Hold on. Canadia's Ontario province passed legislation that allows the government to seize children from families that refuse to accept their child's chosen gender identity or gender expression. The so-called Supporting Children, Youth, and Families Act of 2017, or Bill 89, was approved by about... Okay. Bill 89. Oof.
I can link you to the actual bill if you'd like.
The paramount purpose of the Act to promote the best interest, protection, and well-being of children remains unchanged from the current Act. The additional purposes of the Act are expanded to include the following: to recognize that services to children and young persons should be provided in a manner that respects regional differences wherever possible and takes into account physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, and developmental needs and differences among children and young persons, a child's or young person's race, ancestry, place of origin,
gender identity, and gender expression.
Gender identity, gender expression, and a child's or young person's cultural and linguistic needs. Children and young persons and their families should be provided in a manner that builds on the strength of the families wherever possible. This sounds like the kind of act in the United States. I can't speak to Canadian law, but in the United States, breaking up a family is a really hard thing to do. You need a really good reason to do it, such that even in cases of divorce between men and women, the woman has to make a really strong argument to deny the father all custody because the courts usually like to see the family somewhat kept together. It's pretty hard to lose like all custody of your kid. You got to fuck up pretty bad in U.S. courts to do it. This sounds like it's trying to respect where I see builds on the strength of the families wherever possible, but
it falls into neglect if you're not going to accept this gender identity of your child.
Has this actually like been demonstrated in a court where people?
It's very recent, and like I'm saying, one thing can lead to another, and it's.
I would have to see this like actually like. like a kid, like somebody actually lose their kid because they want to be transgender at age 6 or something.
And once again, I'm saying very poor written legislation. And like I said, if you can do whatever you want. You can fucking pretend to be a he, she, or whatever. But when it becomes legislated and you're impeding on people's linguistics and punishing them criminally for and bending the majority to the very minute minority.
You're not bending anything to the minute minority.
Yes, you are. You're fucking...
It's not like the bill is forcing you to go into other people's houses and watch their kids or some shit.
No, I'm talking about the same thing about regulating whether I can call a female, a woman, she... And is that
what about regulating, like calling people racial slurs?
That's already covered.
Do you think that shouldn't be? Because that's impacting my free speech as well.
Pardon?
That's impacting free speech as well. Like, what if I called normal black people darkies? What if it's just normally what I call them? Now all of a sudden that I'm a manager,
that would
I'm
make
not allowed.
You a dick. That would make you a dickhead. But
Why?
It doesn't. But should you be criminally punished? Probably not. No.
So you don't think that you don't think that it's fair to say that I might be racially discriminating against my employees if I call them darkies if I'm a manager or something?
Yes, but that's racist. That goes back to the whole fact, to the point where we're at, where that it's gender a spectrum or not.
I'm trying really hard to empathize with you. I just don't see why you would get so mad over this. Like, I'm imagining going to the workplace and I meet somebody and they look like a man to me and they're like, hey, I'd prefer it if you call me Samantha. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, that's fine.
Because a black man is genetically a black man. A woman who says they are a Z and some fucking 29th type gender on a fucking spectrum.
We're not talking about 29th spectrum.
Has no basis.
We can just say their name and use they. We've already moved past this. Why are you bringing this argument up again? You can just use their name and use the pronoun they. It's really easy to do. You can't.
Like, so anytime someone decides that they want to be like, what if I don't like they? What if people start thinking they sounds less personable and that you're alienating them and that you're not allowed to say they because that's hateful?
Well, if somebody puts up that legislation, then I guess we can discuss it. Like, I don't understand the importance.
You may personally be fine with using it, but do you think someone who's doesn't share the same beliefs? It'd be like if I said Allah is the only God, and if you fucking say that He isn't, well, that's punishable.
Depending on the environment, yes.
People should be.
Well, it depends on the environment. If I'm your boss and we're working at the job site and we're working at on a job and I'm telling you, like, by the way, Allah is fake. Like, yeah, that's probably not kosher. I don't think you should probably be able to say that to your employees. It seems weird. Like, you're attacking their religion.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not the example I use.
Sorry.
The example I use is if you say that Allah is the only God and that you're not, and then someone says, "Oh no, I don't agree with that. That's not my beliefs," and then you start punishing them because they have a different belief set than you, and that's the whole thing. And that's religion. Religion, you can't prove with anything that Jesus Christ was a prophet.
What are we talking? What are we talking about?
What I'm saying is you can't say that gender spectrum and all this other stuff.
Wait, wait. Just focus on the religion argument. What is the example?
The example is you have no actual basis. Like if you call a black person a slur.
No. Well, let's just stay with the religion example. What was the example here? That like somebody somebody is working and they say like praise Allah or something. That shouldn't be allowed, or?
No, what I'm saying is that if you're told that you can't say that he isn't the prophet. If you can't say Muhammad isn't the prophet.
If you can't say Muhammad isn't the prophet, then what?
Should you be punished? Okay. Do you think you should be punished?
I don't. I'm really slow.
Do you think you should be punished?
If you can't say Allah isn't the prophet, then shouldn't you be punished?
I'll word it better for you.
Okay.
So if you say that Muhammad is not the prophet, should you be punished? And you yourself not being Islamic and not
possibly,
living in
possibly, I think, because it's, at least in the United States, religion is a protected class. Making declarative statements about religions while you're on the clock, that's probably not cool. You probably shouldn't do that. It's not really appropriate, like workplace shit, I don't think.
So you're telling me that if someone doesn't believe in gender, the gender spectrum and all this other things, and they want to use scientific facts that a male is a male and a female is a female.
Well, you can't say scientific facts because the entire medical and psych community are against you. So it's personal feelings.
That's not true at all.
Wait, what's not true?
Can you find me anything that says a majority of doctors believe that gender is on a fucking spectrum?
I can find you a ton of like academic investigation into like transgender.
A majority
that believe that like isn't transgenderism like literally in the DSM-5 like.
Hello?
The DSM-5 refers to the topic as gender dysphoria while reinforcing the idea that being transgender is not considered a mental illness. So, like, even, mainstream psychology recognizes transgender as a thing. In terms of it being on a binary, I'm not necessarily sure. Or not a binary, but on a spectrum, I'm not necessarily sure. But transgender is definitely something that is recognized in the vast majority of the medical and psych community. I mean...
Yes, recognized, but... They also change on whether they don't call it gender dysphoria anymore. They call it transgenderism or whatever it is now.
They don't call it what? I'm sorry, say that again?
They changed the wording for it. 1 second.
Wait, they changed the wording from what to what? Hello?
Yeah, hold up. I'm reading something.
Well, this is a really basic thing, so like if you have this terminology wrong, we should probably move on to another conversation topic. Are you saying that actually, wait, can you tell me the difference between gender dysphoria and transgender? Or what does gender dysphoria mean?
Transgender is someone that likes to dress as the opposite sex. Gender dysphoria is when you mentally believe that you are the opposite sex.
Okay, I think we should move on to another topic. You have no idea about any of this. I can't believe you feel so strongly about this and you don't even know like the basis of what we're talking about. This is all of you guys. Why are you like this? Let's talk about you. I want to know about you. Why are you like this? Why are you the way you are? Tell me. I want to understand you. I want to understand you. Why are you the way that you are?
Which way is that?
Why do you feel so strongly about things? Wait, can I... This is a personal question. You don't have to answer if you're not comfortable. Are you 21? How old are you?
23.
Okay. Reasonably old. Why do you feel so strongly about things that you're just so clueless about? Or rather, or how about this? Where did the confidence come from for you to come up here? It's clear to me that you've never tested any of these ideas against anyone else before. I stream to thousands of people. It's probably pretty obvious by now that I have these conversations frequently. Like, where did you gather the confidence to come on here and think that you would stump me with like...
It's not about whether I'm coming on here to stump you. What I'm coming on here, I'm not trying to say... I wasn't trying to preach any type of...
You were in my chat, though.
No, I wasn't trying to...
You were talking about the migrant crisis when you were in Germany for a year.
Yeah. And I was talking about how the migration system was fucked because every time we went on a train, there would be Syrians that didn't speak any German. They were hands out. They had signs, "Oh, we need money," blah blah blah. And I was trying to say how mass immigration doesn't work. And hello.
Okay, I don't want to go into another topic because I just want to know why. I just want to know why you've... I don't know. I don't understand.
The whole thing that we were talking
about... You have no shame. But before we go too much farther, so just to tell you, Gender dysphoria explains the discomfort that somebody has when their outward appearance doesn't match what they inwardly believe they should feel in regards to gender. So if I look into the mirror and I very much feel like I'm a man and I've got a massive set of D's and a vagina or a pussy or whatever, I would feel gender dysphoria if that caused me great discomfort. That's what gender dysphoria is, and that's what's recognized as a quote-unquote mental illness. It's something that has to be addressed because gender dysphoria leads to a lot of bad things. Transgender, the state of being a transgender or a transgender person is just I'm a man biologically, but socially I identify my gender as a woman. That's what being a transgender person is.
Okay, so I had gender dysphoria correct and transgender.
No. Gender dysphoria you had completely wrong. You said that gender
what did I say about
you said that gender dysphoria was just being a trans person. It's totally different.
I said gender dysphoria is someone who believes that they're
okay, listen, I just wanted to get it. For the people that didn't know in chat, I just wanted to explain.
I misrepresented transgender as cross-dressing.
I don't even want to talk about that anymore. I just don't understand. How do you feel about black people in general? Do you think they're cool dudes, or do you think that?
Yeah, I think they're great people. I feel bad that they're in a situation where there's a lot of the majority, or not a majority. Well, yeah, probably a majority of them living in impoverished places that they don't have, that they grow up with single mothers, and I think that's really unfortunate. And I feel like BLM doesn't quite help them with that.
Okay.
I'm not racist in any sense. I grow up in a very multicultural place. Like I'm not going on here to say that there's a master race or anything like that. I'm trying to say I disagree with Black Lives Matter. I don't think that it helps.
Why can't we just be nice people to each other? Why does the pronoun thing bother you so much?
I'm not being. What have I said though that wasn't very nice?
That calling people like he or she, if it's different than what you normally call them, makes you so upset.
No, I already went over that with you.
Because you think there's like a crazy slippery slope?
I said I feel like people should be able to do whatever they want, but I don't think it should be legislated or that it should be criminally punishable.
Well, but you do think that in regards to like racial slurs.
Yes, because that's a different.
What about making fun of people because they're gay or lesbian?
If someone is black, they are genetically, that's the way they are. But if I say I'm fucking, I'm Z and I'm fucking a different type of gender that I don't know, but one of them that they used.
Okay,
that doesn't have the same basis.
What about making fun of people because they're gay or lesbian?
I would strongly disagree with that because.
Okay, so if we've got you this far, that making fun of somebody because they're gay or lesbian...
When did I ever say I was making fun of anyone or trying to put people down? What I was trying to say was I don't think things like that...
Well, because if somebody comes in, if somebody like me were to come in and say like, hey, like, could you just call me Samantha and refer to me as a she? Like, for you to like intentionally use he over and over again, you're just doing it to mess with me, right?
If someone were to do that, I don't think they should be criminally punished.
Okay, so do you think somebody should be criminally punished for making fun of somebody for being gay or lesbian?
If it's not in a workplace or something in a professional.
Well, typically that's what we're talking about. Typically, is workplace or like building tenant relationships. At least in the United States, I can't speak directly to Canadian shit, but
I would say as far as if you're not physically threatening anyone, you should be able to say whatever you want.
So in a workplace, you should be able to say whatever you want.
No, not in a workplace because that's different. Because that's an employer. An employer should have the choice to.
Okay, so
fire you.
So you don't disagree with any of these things taking place in like the workplace, then, right? That if somebody has a certain pronoun, if they want you to be called he or she or whatever.
Sure, I feel like I think that sure maybe you could be, if the boss really doesn't like it, you could be let go. But I don't feel like there should be any further like legal action taken.
Okay, wait. So if somebody discriminates against somebody for like homosexuality, should any criminal action be taken, or?
In which case?
In workplace places. By the way, I'm pretty sure C16 mainly refers to workplaces as well, but I don't think it refers to people like on the street. I'm pretty sure the C16, the Bill of Rights or whatever, or the Human Bill of Rights, whatever they fucking call it, refers to like treatment at like workplaces and whatnot. Or like for building tenant, like renter-owner relationships.
But there's a difference.
In what?
In the because sorry, can you repeat it?
I don't think you should be allowed to harass people based on being a transgender in the workplace.
Yes, okay. What I'm saying is I don't think that should go from the workplace to you being criminally punished.
But I mean, that's what you do when you discriminate in the workplace.
And at the point when it comes to transgenderism, I feel like it's a lot different than someone saying either being gay or lesbian.
Why do you think it's different? Because you like gay people, but you don't like transgender people? Or because you like the idea of gayness, but not the idea of transgenderness? Or what? Why is it different?
Because the whole gender thing is... There's nothing that backs it. Like,
that's not true. I can post you. Here's an article from Nature. It's like the largest like science magazine.
I'm talking about there being multiple genders.
Sure, the idea of two sexes is simplistic. Biologists now think there's a wider spectrum than that. This is sex redefined. But we weren't even talking about the multi thing. We were talking about just he versus she, like calling somebody a different, like if they want to be called a she or whatever. Like, here's a question. I'm curious. Do you think that?
But if someone is gay,
okay,
and you say you're gay, and you're not saying it in a derogatory term or whatever, and then they're like, no, I'm straight, but like, let's say there's a way to 100% prove that they are gay.
Okay, but that's just the thing. There is no way to 100% prove any of this. Like, if you were to set out to prove...
You can prove if someone is a male or very easily.
Not gender-wise, and you can't prove if somebody is gay or not. Well, I'm curious, actually. How would you prove if somebody is gay or not? I really want to know.
No, I'm saying we can't do that.
Okay, so like... How do you prove gender-wise, or how do you prove at all if somebody is like, or is male or female in the workplace? Let's say that a woman goes to get a job, she's got A cups. How do you prove whether or not she's male or female? Do they actually
her birth certificate will say.
You have to show a birth certificate to get a job in Canada?
Your social security number, and I'm sure it's the same as social insurance in the States, is probably connected to records of you.
And employees actually run checks and your employer actually runs a check to verify your gender on your... I mean, like, it just seems like this seems like so silly. I don't understand, like, what the big point.
You're taking away from the point.
Well, your point is that there's some weird slippery slope that's going to be created because this is like an entirely unreasonable thing. And I think partially that's because you haven't engaged with the academic side at all, because transgender and the idea behind it is very widely accepted in the medical community.
I'm talking about linguistics being restricted and
linguistics aren't being restricted.
Yes, they are.
They already... The idea that your linguistics are restricted or whatever the workplace is already something that's happened in regards to protected classes. You can't make fun of somebody for being old or for being gay or for being a certain ethnicity or for having a certain religion or for veteran status. Like,
are you going to tell me that's the same as pronouns? Like, how often do you use he and she? Like, people use those thousands of times in a week.
Okay, wait. I'm curious. Do you think that transgender people choose to be the other gender, or do you think they're born that way?
I think it's a mental illness.
That people... Okay. So being transgender is something that could be fixed given proper therapy or whatever?
Possibly. Yeah. Okay. There's research that backs that, and
gotcha.
I think it's...
There's not.
There actually is... No, there's actually numbers that... I think 60 to 80% people will eventually realign with the stats that I had from a Canadian thing was that 60 to 80% will realign with their given sex at birth.
Sure, I would like to see that if you ever find it.
Okay, well, I'll find that right now. 1 second. That's also in that death documentary that I was talking about. That you now have. Let's see.
Like, all the arguments that you're making against transgenderism or whatever right now are the same arguments that people made against homosexuality. That gay people just need to be straight. That
No, I didn't say that they need to be, like I've said again, that they can do whatever they want.
Well, if you believe that transgenderism is a mental illness, I think this heavily informs your views. I understand more why you view the things the way you do, because you think that these people are just fucking crazy and need to be cured somewhere.
I don't think they're crazy. I think crazy.
Well, you think they have a mental illness. I'm being hyperbolic, but you think they've got a mental illness that can be fixed.
Yeah, I definitely think that something mentally is not right.
So this is why I think that I understand how this informs your views. It's just not current with the literature at all, so I don't know how to. I can't address.
Well, like I'm trying to find this number. It definitely does say that they'll use those numbers in that documentary.
Yeah, I don't know about anything about the documentary. I'm looking at an article published in in Nature, which is like one of the largest, if not the largest, like biology or whatever related science peer-reviewed journal.
Let's see. I mean, obviously this isn't easy to pull everything up on the fly, but I think we can both see where.
Well, I mean, so like I could go to Google.
Like I'm not saying
right
things out of hate. Like
well, no, I'm not saying you're being hateful. I'm sorry if I've given that impression. My impression is that you're very stupid. This was the impression that I got. Not hateful. I'm not trying to make you sound that way, but just that like you're super uninformed on everything, but you have a really strong opinion about it all the time.
I don't think that is a super strong opinion, though. I feel like you feel like that not wanting things like that legislated is being super strong.
I mean, I think you're probably, I'm willing to guess if I were to go on your social media that you are not putting out nuanced views of these topics. I'm willing to bet that you're retweeting shit from people like Shapiro or Molyneux or Peterson about how mental illness is a disease and how these people are crazy. And there's probably a lot of pretty edgy shit on there. If I'm guessing, if I were to go on your social media, do you think?
No, I would definitely say that's wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That you're not moderating your views here when you're talking to me now, but this idea that all trans people or most trans people go back to being non-trans doesn't sound. I've never heard it before. Are you sure this wasn't talking about like maybe like kids or something that could do whatever because kids don't have a strong?
It was. I think it was people.
Like your name is literally shithole countries.
Okay. So funny behind that. The reason was I made a Twitter account, a Twitch account the other night, and I'd literally just been reading that article, and I was like, "Fuck, I need a Twitch name," and then I put that in, and then funny enough, I ended up in your thing, and then I commented, and people just went nuts on that. But the whole thing about the shithole countries is like, oh wow, he said shithole countries in a private meeting. Is that a like? Do you not think Haiti's a shithole country?
If I was the president of any country, I would never describe another country as a shithole country. It sounds like a really fucking.
I mean, if you say that in a private,
it's not setting. Private if there are senators and people around you. No, I would never say that. No, why would I refer to other countries that I'm working with on a diplomatic level on the international stage as shithole countries? Especially when I've already got a history of sounding really fucking racist, and then compare it to like one of the whitest countries on the planet.
I mean, what has he said that's really racist? I'd like to hear.
I don't think we want to go into that.
I want to hear what you describe as very racist.
I think during the nomination process, when he described that Mexicans that come over are racist or rapists, murderers, and thieves, and some of them are good people, that sounded pretty bad to me. When he explicitly said that a judge that had two parents that were from Mexico couldn't preside on any case of his because his Mexicanness, even though he was an American.
No, it wasn't on any case of it. It was about the.
It was about what?
It was about that. It was about the wall. He was saying he doesn't think that he should have a say on it because he could have a biased opinion.
Oh, wait. Was he saying that the judge shouldn't be allowed to rule on whether or not the wall should be legal or not?
Yeah, because he was of Mexican descent.
Wait, do you think that's a really?
I mean,
wait, hold on, wait. You're talking about the the American judge. Oh, because it was a ruling on whether or not the wall should go up or not.
Yeah, and he himself was Mexican. Well, Mexican descent, born in the United States, and then Trump figured that he could have a biased view.
Okay,
and it would be a
the case that the federal judge was presiding over had nothing to do with the wall. It had to do with the Trump University students.
Let's see.
We don't trust me. I'm not wrong on this. I follow this extensively. Everybody that paid attention to pull it, or we could look it up. Okay. I found some article relating to the sex ratio trajectory at conception and how it changes or something, but this has to do with like conception to birth, and it only applies to sex. This has nothing to do with transgender.
Well, it's probably not what I'm talking about then.
Okay.
The stat that I had was something about people who decide they're whatever before 18 and later, and then that's also a big issue with when kids are taking things that will affect how they go through puberty at an age.
Gotcha. All right. Well, if you find this later, feel free to shoot it at me. So, like, I want to hear more about the judge and the wall. I didn't know that the wall was up for in front of a federal judge.
Here's the thing. Okay. Jake, I'm building a wall. Okay, these are quotes from Trump. Jake, I'm building a wall. Okay, I'm building a wall. I'm trying to keep business out of Mexico. Mexico's fine, but the interviewer Tapper, but he's American. Trump, he's of Mexican heritage and he's very proud of it, as I am where I come from, as my parents. But he's an American. You keep talking about a conflict of interest because of Mexico. Jake, are you ready? I have a case that should have already been dismissed.
Yeah.
I have thousands of people saying Trump University is fantastic. Okay,
Trump University, that's what the case is about, yeah.
Okay, but he's also going on about the wall.
Well, yeah, but the case had nothing to do with the wall.
Okay, that particular case, but I feel like the rulings were to do with those hindsight of...
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why do you think a federal judge that's an American citizen is ruling on a case and is being vindictive about the wall?
Because he will have to rule on the wall later, probably.
Why would a random federal judge hearing a case about Trump University eventually have to make a decision on whether or not the wall was built?
Let's see.
Well, there's no answer to this. He's just a random federal judge. Like, he's not like a Supreme Court justice.
Oh, okay. Now I see. So, here's the... Sorry, I've misread this. So basically, from his view, is that since he's building the wall between Mexico and the States, that he will be biased against Trump as towards building the Trump University. So there we.
Okay.
And so I misunderstood that, but still same premise.
Well, no, it's a very different premise. He's saying that no person who has any relationship, any parents that came from Mexico, that no person like that could ever make a ruling on any court case that he's involved in.
No, it's more about because that's a Trump University. It's just something else, right?
Like, well, it's obviously a court case involving Trump, right? So anything related to Trump is going to have Trump's name on it. It could be Trump University, Trump Tower, Trump the reality TV show. So if any judge, any American judge that has any parents from Mexico, we will never be able to sit on a case like this.
I mean, there's the difference between building a fucking women's shelter and a Trump University.
I don't understand. How is that related to this?
Because the Trump University, like, you're literally just plain stupid. You would know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, because it sounds I'm really trying not to play stupid. I'm sorry. If Trump is involved in a federal court case regarding any of his properties,
so he's trying to build a property, and so the Mexican judge or the judge of Mexican descent may have bad blood with him because of
his parent. That's because of his race.
Oh, sorry, is Mexican a race?
Oh, we can pretend that we only ever use Mexican to speak about nationality. But if you want to speak about nationality, that doesn't work because there's nothing that would preclude a federal judge from ruling on somebody that's going to do something completely unrelated to a nation that he's not even a member of. Because if we talk about nationality, the guy's American. So if we want to talk about something, we have to talk about his race. If you want to talk about nationality, we can. So now you have to tell me why a brown American isn't allowed to sit on this case.
No. So what if it was the other way around? What if it was a Canadian? What if it was a Canadian border, and he was trying to build a wall on the Canadian border, and he was trying to do something close and had build Trump University, and there was a Canadian judge, and he said, "Oh, I don't want this Canadian." Would that be still racist?
A Canadian judge probably shouldn't sit on the case.
No, you know what I mean. An American.
Oh, an American that is of Canadian descent?
Yes.
Considering that one of the people running alongside Trump in the Republican nomination thing was a Canadian person, Ted Cruz, yeah, I would probably argue that, sure, it would probably be okay. If they're an American citizen, but they're a federal judge, they should probably be able to roll in the case. Yeah.
But why does that make it racist all of a sudden when it's...
I don't know. It seems like we have a lot of problems with brown people. I'm kind of using a little bit of inductive reasoning there, but when we have a huge problem with
which
Hispanics...
problems we have?
Well, we don't like Mexicans. That's something that Trump has established pretty clearly.
But when he talked about that, he was talking about illegals the whole time. Like,
really? When he says when Mexico sends their people, they're not sending their best. They're sending rapists, thieves, and murderers, and some of them are good people, I assume. You think that most illegal immigrants are rapists, thieves, and murderers that come from Mexico?
Yeah, bad choice of words. I'm not going to sit here and defend. Like, obviously,
okay, so that was a bad choice of words. Talking about how any Mexican or Muslim judge, or like a Mexican descendant or Muslim judge, can't sit on your case.
So, but it's funny how you find it racist only if it's someone of another race, but if it's a white person with another white person, it's all about the business or the deal aspect of it. But if
somebody was racist towards white people, we'll call it. It's pretty hard to be racist towards white people.
Nationality is his background nationality is Mexican.
Sure, his background nationality is Mexican. We've had huge problems with Mexicans. He said really bad things about Mexicans. He said really bad things about Muslims. We tried to keep all of them from coming here, or a lot of them from coming here. And now he's talked about shithole countries. He pardoned Sheriff Arpaio.
Okay, why is shithole country racist, though? That's not racist to say shithole country. These countries' GDPs are fucking smaller than what most people make in a fucking month. Obviously, that's a hyperbole, but...
Do you know the difference between deductive or inductive reasoning? Have you ever heard these terms before?
Pardon?
Have you ever heard the terms deductive versus inductive reasoning?
Yes,
So, like, if somebody says, like, I really don't like this type of person or this type of person, and I hate these people, and these people steal all the time, and I don't like these people, and they're always referring to brown people, and then you, at the end of this long tirade, you're like, hey, dude, you seem like you might be a little bit racist. And then they go, oh, really? Show me one specific thing where I was racist. And like, okay, well, what are this? Well, I was talking about Mexicans and El Salvadorians there. Okay, well, what are this? Those shithole countries happen to be brown, but they're just shithole countries. Norway happens to be white, but Norway's a great country. What about when you talk about Muslims? Well, Muslims can actually be white. There are some white Muslims. Like, at what point do you go like, okay, maybe you're like a little bit kind of racist, maybe. What about the Sheriff Arpaio shit? What about the support of Stop and Frisk in New York? Like, how many different things can Trump do? Like, if he doesn't actually say, I want to lynch the Negros, like, then he's not racist. Up to that point, everything he says is okay. Like, what about the multitude of cases against his company that acknowledge racial injustice? I mean, I don't like to point that out because I know the Trump company is probably huge, and maybe he didn't have a direct hand in all of that. Maybe. But, I mean, like, damn.
That's I'm
sorry, I gish galloped you a little bit there. I admit it, but if you want to go through any individual thing, we can. I'm just saying that when you look at his total body of statements,
I would guarantee you, if I looked enough, I could find things that you could deductive reasoning assume that Hillary Clinton is racist. Like,
the only thing I can think of is maybe the super predator.
And that's another issue. That's another issue that with the whole BML thing. I think if a white person killed a black person, maybe it's just because he was a shitty cop. And it wasn't only because the other person was black. Like,
okay, but if we see a disproportionate amount of this occurring, it's probably because it has an institutional thing. It's not just like individual bad cops are all making individual bad decisions. And then there was the whole Obama is a Kenyan meme.
When you're talking about the
birth certificate shit.
Yeah, but that just makes him fucking ignorant. Doesn't make it like,
okay.
If you think that someone's not born in the country, does that make you racist?
I'm just looking at the whole pattern of evidence, my dude.
Like, do you think he would have black assistants and like be fine with working with Ben Carson and etc.? if he was truly racist?
Sure, racist people can have black friends all the time. People know the KKK did it.
And which rights have African Americans lost and women lost as women were complaining that they were going to lose their rights when Trump got elected?
I don't think anybody's complaining about losing specific rights. It's just more so an attack on progress that we've made in those areas.
I don't see it regressing and going backwards.
Okay, how about Trump trying to make an executive statement saying that all transgender people need to be kicked out of the military?
Like I said, I probably goes with the mental illness thing.
Why wouldn't he consult the military that's already done extensive research on transgenders in the military?
I'm sure he did talk with I'm sure he didn't make that decision strictly by himself.
He did.
People
were surprised. Like, even when he tweeted it, people were surprised as fuck.
So you're telling me that you know for sure that the president didn't consult with anybody?
I can't know for sure, but all the evidence the fact that the military had no idea how to implement it, the fact that the military already has standing policy on how to deal with transgender people, and the fact that I'm pretty sure actually that whole thing ended up being on hold and none of it was implemented.
That's breaking away from him being racist.
Well, no, I'm not talking about him being racist. You asked me to give specific examples of things that he's done to harm minority figures or whatever. For women, he's talked a lot about abortion and shit. I don't know if he can get a judge on there, or you could argue his Supreme Court pick might be influenced by his desire to overturn Roe v. Wade. What are your views on abortion? I think it's immoral. I don't like it, but...
So you don't think people should be have abortions?
I think that abortion is murder, personally.
So even if it's a rape?
This is a totally different conversation, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm just asking.
Yeah,
you think it's still a murder if it's a rape?
Yep, that doesn't change the condition.
Okay, no, I'm not. I'm impartial. I don't really care. I feel like people should.
Okay. So
I have no opinion. But the whole thing is, like, what Trump has said about abortions is that he thinks the state should decide with their own state laws, and that's very, very good that you brought up, though, that you're against it because you're against abortion and those are your personal views. Do you think that you're trying to take rights away from women?
I mean, to some extent, yeah, of course you are.
But why would that be taking away rights if it's murder? Because people already don't have, like...
Well, there's a philosophical argument to be made, but the parents lose rights every time they have children, right? Like, if I have a child, I have an obligation, like, assigned to me by the state to take care of them. If we're not together with the mom, you have to pay child support. If you have the child, you have to send them to school. You've got to provide for them. Like, of course you lose rights when you have a child. But my personal views on this are irrelevant. You were saying that women and minorities or whatever were worried that Trump was going to take rights away from them. Give me an example.
No, I don't think that's abortion is an example.
You don't think abortion, like one of the bleeding fights that women have faced, is a relevant example here?
I said I don't think it's irrelevant because you said it was irrelevant.
Well, I said my personal views are irrelevant.
Not really, because the people, like... Obviously, everyone's personal views accounts somewhat, right?
No, not to this question.
So you're telling me that if a majority of people think something's okay.
No, you asked me a specific question. You said women and minorities feel like they were going to lose rights when Trump got elected. Can you give me an example of that? I've given you 2 so far.
But why would it be taking white rights away if abortion is murder?
Because most people don't view abortion as murder.
Most people.
Yeah, in the United States, it seems so right now, that most people don't view abortion as murder. I don't think so. I mean, I could Google a topic, or I'm not sure. Pew poll, is abortion murder? I don't know. I could look for data on it, but...
yeah, but like we both agreed that we're talking about how people used to think of gays as mentally ill or whatever, and outdated views. Well, at one time, it was legal to own slaves. And now we're going back to the whole rights thing.
What?
You're saying that you're taking away rights because that it should be a right or whatever. Does that make it morally, like... Obviously, if it's murder, it obviously isn't taking away rights then if you're saying you can't murder someone.
But most people don't view it as being murder. That's the whole point.
Yes, but at one time, most people thought slavery was okay. But that doesn't, like, do you not?
No, because I'm looking at how we view things now, today. If you would have asked me my views on transgender people 50 years ago, I would have answered you much differently than I would today, where the medical literature is much different than it was 50 years ago. Like,
so But there is a lot of literature on whether it is murder or not, and whether babies...
No, it's not. We can't possibly establish literature on that. It's an impossible question to answer.
So you're telling me there's absolutely no literature on abortions?
No, absolutely not. On whether or not...
Good night. It's very late, and I'm not gonna,
you're telling... Okay, I mean, like, I can challenge you on this. Please show me the scientific literature that tells us when we can define a human being as a human being that is deserving of rights endowed by the state.
I'm not saying there's exact, but I'm definitely saying there's definitely a lot of research on it.
But I'm talking about a philosophical question of when should you be allowed to abort a child. You can't get scientific literature on that.
Basically, your view right now is that abortion is murder.
Personally, yeah.
But it's okay because most people think it's okay.
We're not talking about my personal views. To go back again, to go back again.
Why does it matter what anything if we're talking?
Because you asked me, you said that women and minorities were worried that Trump was going to take away their rights. Give a suggestion of one right they were going to take away: the right to have an abortion, something that 80% of Americans apparently agree on right now. So that's an example of a right.
And he didn't, though. Like I said,
no, he hasn't yet. But he's got a vice president that's very much against abortion. He nominated,
and he's going to stay out of it.
Letting the states decide means inevitably making it illegal in some states, because right now there's a federal ban on it. Making the states decide is a cop-out weasel answer. That would be like saying, should you be allowed to be racist against people at the workplace? Well, let's let the states decide on that. Should you be allowed to own slaves? Well, let's let the states decide on that.
It's definitely different.
It's not different. It's a concept of the tyranny of the majority. You don't want to let people rule by mob.
Letting people own slaves and abortion is not different. And
you're talking about taking away rights from individuals. Typically, we don't allow states to delegate away things that we consider to be fundamental rights to people. This is classic. This is why we have a democratic republic. It's why we don't do things by referendum.
But he's not taking them away.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, listen, dude.
If one politician is going to let the rest of the states, and do you know who are the politicians in those other states? People that have been elected by the people.
Right now, in all 50 states, you can have an abortion. If Trump overturned Roe v. Wade and left it up to the states, would there be more or less than 50 states that would allow abortion?
If I elect politicians, if the majority of people elect politicians that are against abortion, and then that state abolishes abortion, do you really think that's still a majority? Not like I guarantee you that the states that are pro-life. Or not pro-life, that are for abortions, the states that are for that, or the people that are for that, those states will keep it.
What about the people who live in those majority states who don't agree with it?
Well, that's fucking tough. That's how it is. Like, you can't bend them. That's the whole thing we've been talking about this whole time.
You can bend them, though. That's why we have protected classes. That's why we have federal laws. We can protect the rights of minority people across state boundaries. That's the purpose of the federal government. That's why you can't own slaves in Alabama.
You're going so off topic with that.
I'm sorry, what part of that do you feel like was off topic? And I can relate it back to exactly what we're talking about. The owning slaves in Alabama? We have an issue. Abortion, okay? I'm going to compare it to slavery. Both of these things are issues that people consider fundamental human rights. One is the right to your own bodily autonomy that a woman would argue. The other is the right to your own bodily autonomy that a black person would argue, okay? You're saying, let's leave these up to the states. So let's go to a state, let's go to an ass-backwards state like fucking Alabama, okay? We go to Alabama, they would vote in that state. In one world, well, let's get rid of abortion. In another world, well, let's bring back slavery. In both of these cases, you've had a minority figure, such as the minority that are women or the minority that are black people, having their bodily autonomy violated because the state voted in favor of getting rid of the protections for them, because the majority was in favor of revoking those protections. Can you tell me how these two things are not comparable, please?
Can I ask you one question before I go?
Go.
Do you think if Alabama had the choice, do you think that they would make slavery legal again if they could?
I don't fucking know. At this point, I would hope not, but I honestly don't know.
Well, what do you think?
I don't know. I really don't know. I wouldn't even try to guess on it. But I'm curious how you can say that these two things are different. I feel like
because we don't think like that anymore.
Okay.
You just talked about how it's the majority of people that fucking think that you should be able to have an abortion. Well, then if the states are to decide, I'm sure that people will be able to still get abortions in the states. I'm sure maybe a couple states or maybe a few states will abolish it. Depending on the demographics of what people believe in certain states.
So in Alabama, according to a poll that I just brought up by Pew, 58% of people believe that it should be illegal in all or most cases.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas,
so in Alabama,
60% of people believe it should be illegal in most or all cases.
Of people. There you go, of people. It's not just the politicians deciding.
Okay, but these are examples of states where they could elect politicians that would make abortion illegal. In Georgia, they would try to roll it back. In Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi.
So if the fucking majority of those,
go ahead. If the majority,
if the majority of those states believe it should be that way, then why not?
Okay, if the majority of those states believe that slavery should be legal again, why not?
Because that's very different.
Why?
Because you're infringing on somebody else's human rights when
remember, when you describe this, you've got to describe it in a way that doesn't describe abortion.
Listen,
so good luck.
But when your view is that abortion is murder, so you think
what if your view is that slavery is morally righteous?
Yeah, but we're talking about. but I guarantee you, I guarantee you that if they try to make that legal, it's not going to be legal.
Okay, all right. I love you, buddy. Do you have any final parting words for your wonderful fans in chat?
The same people in chat. Who I wonder if they're still here that were talking earlier. You know what you should do? I would have a suggestion.
What?
Take two people from your chat with opposing views and have them talk and see what you get out of it.
Okay.
You think, because like you're coming at me with all this, like I'm ready to fucking debate you at 2 a.m.
Well, this has nothing to do with it being 2 a.m. and more to do. The thing that bothers me, the reason why I do what I do, I don't even like, this isn't even that much fun. It's kind of fun for me, but this isn't even like, I like to play video games. I was a gamer. The reason why I do what I do is because I find that a lot of people have very strong opinions about things that they oftentimes know nothing about.
But do I have very strong opinions?
If somebody was brave enough to hop onto a stream with 3,000 people to espouse their political viewpoints...
3,000 people? Who gives a fuck? 3,000 people? That's so
I would
minuscule.
say that I could inductively reason that you probably care to some level about these political opinions. You made 2 different accounts in my chat room to argue about them. You hopped onto stream and you've been here for 2 hours or whatever chatting with me about it. I would say you probably care a decent amount. I think that's a fair assumption.
No, okay, the assumption, but what I'm saying is I'm not afraid to fucking voice my opinion in front of 3,000 people. Like,
yeah, but I'm not really concerned with you voicing your opinion.
You're acting like, oh, why would you do this? Like, these 3,000 people are like...
No, it's not that. It's the idea. The scary thing isn't that you come on and talk to me. It's that people like you vote. It's the idea that you have all of these opinions, but you don't...
Sorry, but no, okay, sorry. Yeah. Can you just repeat any super strong opinion I've said? Like you've got opinions on Black Lives Matters.
You had an opinion about that Trump judge case, even though you didn't even know what the federal case was on. You're asking me these gotcha questions, like what has Trump done to roll back, rights for minority people without being aware of very public and popular things that he sent. We didn't even get into the whole Planned Parenthood funding cut thing. I don't know. It seems like you've got a lot of opinions about these topics, but you've got opinions on people transgender related stuff and slippery slope stuff related to that without even knowing what gender dysphoria is. I don't know. It just seems like you have a lot of...
I did describe gender dysphoria correctly. It was transgender, which I missed.
That it's not transgender. You totally missed it.
No, I said I misdescribed transgender as cross-dressing.
Okay, I'll give you one more chance. Wait, can you tell me what gender dysphoria is? I'm sorry, because I missed it.
When you mentally believe that you are, like, you're born a male and you mentally believe that you are supposed to be a female and that you align more with female.
What's the difference between that and transgender?
Like I said, the first time I misspoke and I said for cross-dressing, which is when people like to dress as the opposite sex.
You still don't have it.
So, no.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
And the difference between transgender and fucking, gender dysphoria is basically like if I'm not 100%, but basically transgender is just like the whole social construct thing that you've been talking about. Like you would go more with the social construct or whatever.
Okay, gender dysphoria refers to the very uncomfortable feeling that you get.
Yeah, so which I said.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to... I think do we have anything else? I think we're good, right? I think we've got it all, dude. I hate you. I really do hate you. I know I'm laughing, but like people like you make me... It's very upsetting that you just think all these things for no reason. And like it doesn't bother you. Like you have no like shame.
Going on. Wow, you're so ready. Why don't you go fucking debate someone who's actually ready to debate?
I do, but they're all the same. They're all just as dumb as you, dude. It's all the way down. Turtle's all the way fucking down. Like the Sargon of Akkad, you're probably like about as smart as he is. I'm not. I don't think I'm that intelligent. I just like if somebody confronts me, are you uncomfortable after tonight's conversation? Do some of the things?
No, I'm not uncomfortable.
Really? Okay, because if I was in your position, I would be so uncomfortable right now. Why?
Yeah, because that shows a lot about your personality. Why would you be uncomfortable speaking in front of 4,200 people that you'll never interact with? No, I would be uncomfortable
if I talked to somebody that knows way more than me about a topic, and I felt like my opinion on it was malinformed.
Your fucking point. Dude,
I knew everything about every topic you brought up more than you did. What do you mean?
You knew everything about it.
About every topic that you brought up at a greater level than you did, and you chose the topics. You picked all the topics. You like stumbled into a minefield of misinformation somehow before you got here tonight. What's the most you've ever lost on a coin toss? Listen, I've had fun. Do you have any final parting words for us? I believe in you, buddy. Fuck me, dude. Fuck me. I'm sorry, because I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression of this. I don't think that I know a lot of stuff. I don't think that I'm exceptionally intelligent or anything. I mean, maybe more than average. I mean, yeah, let's be real. No, but like, Wheel-Lad, what I mean that was. Thanks for the 5 months of subbing, buddy.
That was Duckers.
When I'm bullying somebody for not being intelligent, it's not because I think they're dumb. It's because I'm angry that they feel strongly enough in an opinion that they're going to come on and argue it, or they're going to shitpost about it in chat while being totally uninformed about it. That's the thing that bothers me. There are plenty of things that I don't know about. And if somebody asks me, like, I'll be like, oh, well, I don't know, or I'm not sure. Or like if somebody brings something up again, like in a debate, and I'm like, and I really don't know the answer, like I might say like, oh, well, I'm not really read on that at all. I can't speak to that. I'm not sure. You could be correct on that, right? It's usually like what I'll admit to. I just, oh yeah, Bowie's, I muted yours. But it's just like when people come on and they have like really strong opinions about things, and then they don't know anything. Maybe instead of stupid, say ignorant. Like, Bowie said, the problem you're having with this guy is that she never states her position clearly. She just asks random questions like, don't you think this? Or you can't say that. These kinds of conversations, like I laugh my way through them to keep my sanity, but these kinds of things are actually like very, very, very upsetting to me. Like they make me reconsider a whole bunch of things that I consider to be like true in my core philosophy, like believing in things like like democracy or like freedom of choice or like marketplace of ideas, or like anybody can be persuaded with a reasonable conversation. Like if I'm going to meet somebody who's already formed opinions about topics without even having like any background at all, like not even knowing what the words mean, right? Like how can I reach these kids? Like how do you communicate to somebody like this? Like Jesus fuck.